Today's lesson is the inventor's toolkit, Tesla's genius and Edison's practicality. Hi, everybody. Welcome to our program. I'm Roger.
And I'm Helen.
And today we're going to continue to talk about the inventors Nikola Tesla and Thomas Edison. Last time we spent a lot of time talking about Tesla. We talked about his genius because he envisioned a world where electricity would be transmitted efficiently over long distances, and it would change the way our cities operated. And, of course, he was a proponent on alternating current, or AC, whereas Edison was more a proponent of DC, which is direct current, which we'll talk about today.
Yes, and in fact, we're going to talk about Edison today, but apart from looking at the inventions of these geniuses, these very special people, we're also looking at the qualities that they possessed, their characters that made them famous later on in life or that gave them success. So as the title suggests, we're looking at the inventor's toolkit, and Tesla's a genius. He is very intelligent and he has very high level of mental skills, whereas Edison is more practical. He possesses practicality, and that means that he's more sensible and he bases his ideas and plans on what he knows will work in the future.
Yes, and of course they worked quite well at the time, but of course, as we know, AC became the common form of electricity for power grids, but DC is more useful for our little devices that we carry with us every day. Okay, so let's find out more about Thomas Edison in today's program. We'll listen to the first part and then we'll come back.
A contemporary of Tesla, Edison was also interested in electricity and electrical systems. But while Tesla's genius was often directed toward futuristic ideas, Edison was a practical thinker whose focus was refining existing technologies to make them more efficient or commercially viable.
大家好，第一部分我们来介绍名词 contemporary， 它的意思是同时代的人、同龄人或是同辈。例如 Unlike many of his contemporaries, the artist was fortunate to have a steady income. 和同时代的艺术家不同，这位画家幸运地拥有一份稳定的收入。或者 The actor was respected by his contemporaries for his ability to play all sorts of roles. 那位演员受他的同辈所敬重，因为他能够演绎各式各样的角色。另外，这个字也可以当作形容词，它指的是当代的或是同时期的。例如 You can stay up to date with today's trends through a subscription to this magazine about contemporary music. 订阅这本当代音乐杂志，可以让你掌握当今的趋势。再举一个例子 The gallery shows works by several influential contemporary artists. 该艺廊展出数名具影响力的当代艺术家的作品。下一个我们看到形容词 viable， 意思是切实可行的或是渴望成功的。例如Paula came up with a viable solution to the problem. Paula 想出了一个可行的方法解决这个问题。或是 The doctor is looking for a viable candidate for the organ transplant. 该医生正在寻找可行的器官移植候选者。
A contemporary of Tesla, Edison was also interested in electricity and electrical systems. So one thing, first of all, that we know about Edison is that he is a contemporary of Tesla, which means that he lived during the same period as Tesla. A contemporary is somebody who lived in the same period as somebody else. So, for instance, I could also say that the playwright Christopher Marlowe, who was also a very famous British playwright of the time, was a contemporary of William Shakespeare because he lived during the same time as William Shakespeare.
Yeah, Marlowe might be overshadowed as a result of Shakespeare's genius. Maybe you should check out some of Marlowe's work, but that's another topic. We are talking about the fact that Edison and Tesla lived around the same time, so they were contemporaries. And Edison was also interested in electricity or electric power and also electrical systems. We could also describe those systems as power grids, which refers to how electricity is distributed from power plants to society at large. But while Tesla's genius was often directed toward futuristic ideas, Edison was a practical thinker whose focus was on refining existing technologies, and he wanted to make them more efficient or commercially viable. So again, we're talking about the fact that Tesla was quite smart, but he was thinking about the future. His genius or his ideas were directed toward futuristic ideas. If something's futuristic, it has to do with the future. This does happen sometimes when we read science fiction. They have some futuristic visions about what the future is going to be like. Are we going to be able to travel to other planets? Will we have contact with aliens? Those are some futuristic ideas. But here it says Edison was a practical thinker, and he would focus on refining existing technologies.
Right. Futuristic is associated with things that are strange and very modern, things that maybe regular people can't imagine, can't envision normally, whereas Edison, being more practical, can work on things that people can actually be concerned about, things that people can use, can touch. So in this way, Edison's work became more accepted than Tesla's, because Tesla, maybe people thought, was just somebody who was thinking about the far future, and his work didn't have any impact on their immediate lives.
Exactly. So again, Edison was focusing on refining technologies that already existed. So to refine something just means to make it better, to make it perfect, to make it usable. For example, we often have crude oil imported from other countries, but it needs to be refined. We send it to an oil refinery so that the crude oil, the petroleum, can be converted into a form that we can use, such as heating oil or gasoline or whatever. And yes, indeed, he wanted to refine the technologies that they already had, the technologies that already existed, and he wanted to make them more efficient and commercially viable. Viable just means usable, which could be practical. People could actually pay a low price for these things, and these systems would be very efficient.
That's right. So perhaps at that time, there were already many inventions, but they weren't very efficient. They weren't very practical. And Edison set his mind to making these things work better for people.
Let's move on now to the second part of our lesson. We'll listen to it first.
Undoubtedly, Edison's greatest achievement was the creation of a long-lasting light bulb. He didn't actually invent the light bulb. Plenty of others had developed and patented their own versions before Edison created the first truly practical one. But Edison's light bulb revolutionized the way we live and work. Indeed, it has brought light to the darkest corners of the world and improved life for billions. Another of Edison's accomplishments was the creation of the phonograph, a machine that could record and play back sound. Developed while Edison was working on improving the telephone, the phonograph transformed how we capture and listen to music, speech, and other audio recordings, and it helped bring about the modern recording industry.
第二部分介绍副词 undoubtedly， 指的是肯定的、毋庸置疑的，或是毫无疑问的。例如 You will undoubtedly run into trouble if you don't prepare well for your trip. 如果你没有做好旅行的准备，无疑的会遇到麻烦。或者 There are undoubtedly more people at the festival this year than there were last year. 毫无疑问，今年参加音乐节的人数比去年要多。接下来我们看到动词 patent， 指的是取得点点点的专利权或是申请专利。举例来说 After patenting the machine, the company started selling it to the public. 在取得该机器的专利权之后，那间公司开始将之向大众贩售。另外，这个字也可以当作名词使用，意思是专利权。例如 In order to protect his invention, Tim applied for a patent. 为了保护自己的发明 Tim 申请了专利权。又或者说 Cassie got a patent for her invention to make sure that no one would steal her idea. Cassie 为她的发明申请了专利权，以确保没有人会窃取她的构想。
Undoubtedly, Edison's greatest achievement was the creation of a long-lasting light bulb. Indeed, we know Thomas Edison best as the inventor or the creator of the light bulb, even though he wasn't actually the person who created this object. Now, here we have the word undoubtedly that begins the sentence, and it just means without doubt, and it's used to emphasize that something is true. So without doubt, it's definitely true that Edison's greatest achievement was the creation of a long-lasting light bulb. So he didn't invent the light bulb, but he did create a long-lasting one. Plenty of others had developed and patented their own versions before Edison created the first truly practical one. So when you're an inventor and you've invented something, what you have to do is patent your invention. When you patent something, it means that you get the official legal right to make or sell an invention. And if you don't patent your invention, then other people may make all the profit from all your hard work because they could copy your creation and say that it's their own.
Right, so notice here, of course, the word patent is being used as a verb. They patented their own inventions. But patent can also be a noun. We would say you get a patent or you apply for a patent from the government so that somebody else cannot steal your idea. And lots of other inventors patented their own ideas, their own versions, before Edison created the first truly practical one. So the versions that were before Edison's light bulb were not practical. They didn't work very well, or they wasted electricity, or they broke easily. But his could actually be practical and be used by people in society. And Edison's light bulb revolutionized the way we live and work. So if something revolutionizes something, that means it makes a big change, usually for the better.
Right. We could also say that smartphones have revolutionized the way people communicate with one another. And Edison's light bulb, since the light bulb was able to provide light for a longer time than previous light bulbs, it revolutionized the way we live and work because we no longer have to work in the dark or use candles. Indeed, it has brought light to the darkest corners of the world and improved life for billions.
Now, another of Edison's accomplishments was the creation of the phonograph, a machine that could record and play back sound. Now, an accomplishment is something that you accomplish, which, of course, is some kind of achievement. You might have many accomplishments in your life by winning a speech contest or being accepted to a good university or having a great job or executing a wonderful marketing strategy for your company. These could be some examples of accomplishments.
Right. An accomplishment is usually something that you achieve after a lot of hard work, a lot of effort. So just being a parent is an accomplishment if your child grows up happy and healthy. So that's also, it could be considered an accomplishment. But here, Edison's accomplishment, or another one of them, was the creation of the phonograph. A phonograph, basically, it's a record player. It's a machine that plays albums, vinyl albums today. In the past, the albums weren't made of vinyl. They were made of another material. But a phonograph is basically a machine that plays back sound, plays back music.
I believe the phonograph that he invented actually played cylinders, which were kind of round and stacked, and I think they broke easily and they didn't sound that great, but of course that established the foundation for other inventions in the future for record players and later on CDs and MP3s and things like that. But again, this particular machine could record and play back sound. So before the phonograph was invented, we didn't have really many recorded sounds that we could listen to. Like, imagine the voices of all those people who lived before. We have no idea what they sounded like because we had no way to record the sound. And the phonograph kind of opened that door. We could record sound of people talking or of people playing music. It could record it and then play it back. It could reproduce that sound.
Developed while Edison was working on improving the telephone, the phonograph transformed how we capture and listen to music, speech, and other audio recordings, and it helped bring about the modern recording industry. So Edison developed the phonograph while he was working on the telephone or trying to improve it. And the phonograph, like the light bulb, also changed people's lives because, as Roger mentioned before the phonograph or before audio recordings, which is the recording of sound, people weren't able to capture the sound or the speech of people in the past. So later on, people have no idea how somebody sounded or how something sounded. And with these revolutionary creations or inventions, people now have the ability to know how people sounded in the past and to play back sound, play back music in their own homes. And because of this, we have a music industry that sells records, sells CDs, and we can enjoy music wherever and whenever we want.
Yep, so his invention brought about the modern recording industry. Without his invention, we wouldn't be able to listen to music like we can today. Okay, that brings us to the end of the second part of our lesson. Let's wrap things up now by listening to the third part.
Though Edison met with great commercial success during his lifetime, his aggressive methods of achieving that success are not always viewed kindly. Still, Edison's contributions have marked him as one of the most influential and successful inventors in history.
最后第三部分我们看到单字 aggressive， 它是形容词，指的是富于攻击性的、好斗的、有侵略性的，或是也可以是积极进取的。例如 The dog's aggressive behavior worried its owner. 那只狗具攻击性的行为让它主人感到担心。又或者说This football team is known for their aggressive style of offense. 这支美式足球队以侵略性的进攻闻名。
Though Edison met with great commercial success during his lifetime, his aggressive methods of achieving that success are not always viewed kindly. So, as we know, Edison became celebrated, famous, and perhaps rich as well because of his inventions, unlike Tesla, who did not get a lot of recognition or financial recognition for his work. Although Edison became successful while he was alive, he also was very aggressive in trying to get his inventions across to the public. So aggressive here means being forceful and determined. If a person is aggressive, that person is determined to win or succeed using forceful action.
Right, so sometimes during rush hour you need to be aggressive when you're driving, otherwise you're not going to get anywhere. And he had these aggressive methods of becoming successful. And nowadays people look back and think, yeah, he was a great inventor, but he was kind of mean to people and he relied on ways to get his inventions accepted that weren't really the best way to get them accepted. So, of course, his success is not always viewed so kindly. Still, even still, Edison's contributions have marked him as one of the most influential and successful inventors in history. So now he's recognized as being very influential. If you're influential, you influence a lot of people. The things you said, the things you did have influence on other people. They affect their lives greatly. Of course, lots of people are influential. Maybe someone in your family is very influential, like my Uncle Pete was very influential for me. He worked on a farm. He was a hard worker, and I got my hard-working ethic from him. He was very influential in my life.
Right, or you could also say that an influential person has the power to shape the way other people think and to determine how the future will look. So that person has a lot of power. An influential person has power.
Exactly. And of course, the big battle between these two inventors was for the electricity, AC versus DC. It seems that AC is used for power distribution from power plants to society at large, but DC is used in smaller electronic devices like our smartphones. Okay, that brings us to the end of our explanation for today. Let's listen to Hanny now.
各位同学大家好，我是 Hanny。 我们来看今天的重点。课文第3部分，他最后写道，虽然爱迪生一生中在商业上取得了极大的成功，但他获得成功所使用的激进手段却时常遭到负面批评。 那尽管如此，他的贡献已经让他成为历史上最具影响力而且最成功的发明家之一了。好，那这个段落他用到2个形容词 aggressive， 它是表达好斗的或是具有侵略性的，那么 influential 它是表达有影响力的。我们分别来补充他们的字首字根。好，首先我们来介绍一下 grad 这个字根，它表示 go 或是 step， 也就是有步行啊或是步骤的意思。那它有可能会拼作 gradu gred gree gress。 好，那我们就看到啦，在 aggressive 这个字当中，它的字首 ag 是来自 ad 表示朝向，那么 gress 就是我们刚刚介绍的字根，它表示步行，那么 ive 是形容词字尾。好，那我们朝向某一个人一步一步的逼近，就会有那种侵略侵犯的感觉，所以我们可以用这样的方式去联想 aggressive， 它表示富于攻击性的、侵略性的。好，那顺便补充2个有相同字根的单字。第一个是 Congress， 它的字首 con 表示一起， gress 表示步行。那我们可以用一起前往某地商讨事情来联想到 Congress， 它有代表大会的意思。当这个字的字首 C 大写时，是用来指美国的国会。好，再补充第2个单字是regress， 它的字首 re 表示往回， gress 表示步行或是走，那么合在一起 regress 就是倒退、退步或是退化。好，那我们接着就来看到 influential， 它其实是来自 influence 这个字。那我们现在就先从 flu 开始讲起， flu， 那同学们也许就会想到流感嘛，那 flu 当单字的时候，它其实就是 influenza 的缩写，表示流行性感冒。不过 flu 当字根的时候，则是有 flow 流动的意思。在一些单字里面啊，它有可能会拼成这个 fluc、fluv 或者是 flux 等等。好，那看到在 influence 这个字当中，它的字首 in 表示进入，那么 flu 是流动，后面的 ence 是名词字尾。流动然后进入，这样什么意思呢？同学们试着想想看，如果有工厂把这个有色废水排进河流里面，这个河流的颜色是不是慢慢会受到影响呢？好，我们也许可以用这样的画面去联想这个流动进入，去想象说 influence 它是有影响的意思。好，那顺便补充2个有相同字根的单字。第一个是 fluent， 它的字根 flu 表示流动， ent 是形容词字尾，那合在一起 fluent 它就表示流利的、流畅的。好，那如果把字尾 ent 改成名词字尾 ency， 那就会变成名词 fluency， 那就表示流畅啊或是流利度。再看到第2个补充的是 confluence， 它的字首 con 表示一起， flu 表示流动， ence 是名词字尾，一起流动到某个地方，应该就可以联想到 confluence， 它有汇流处啊或者是汇合聚集的意思。好，那以上时间重点整理，我们来回顾今天单字吧。
Contemporary. My grandfather and Albert Einstein lived around the same time, so they were contemporaries. Viable. A careful examination showed that the new strategy should be viable. Undoubtedly. The day we spent at the beach was undoubtedly the best part of our trip. Patent. The university plans to help the professor patent his new discovery. Accomplishment. Winning the championship was the team's biggest accomplishment in years. Aggressive. Carmen's aggressive attempts to achieve her career goals have been only somewhat successful. Influential. Dr. May's influential studies have added greatly to our knowledge of the human brain.
Discussion starter starts now!
Here's our discussion starter. The question is, which inventor, Tesla or Edison, do you think has had the greatest influence on modern technology? Why?
I think without doubt, Edison has had the bigger influence on modern technology because he was instrumental in creating or inventing the modern light bulb, and that was significant, as well as inventing the phonograph, and that gives us music, and based on that, we have the modern music industry, and we're able to listen to music in a way that would not have been possible before.
Interesting. Well, I think Tesla is more influential because you don't see cars driving around with the word Edison on them. You see cars with the word Tesla on them. Beat that, Edison.
Well, everyone, today's article has come to an end, and I sure hope you enjoy reading along with us. I am Helen.
I am Roger.
See you next time.